자, 내려.
네, 알겠습니다.
걱정하지 마시고.
죄송합니다.
네, 됐어요. 그냥 가세요. 네, 괜찮습니다.
The story begins on a quiet and deserted night in Cheonan, South Korea. A man is driving alone on a lonely stretch of road when his vehicle is suddenly rear-ended by another car. He steps out to inspect the damage, intending to record the scene for an insurance claim. He is not looking for trouble and expects a standard exchange of information. However, the driver of the other vehicle remains completely silent. He stands there watching the man without saying a word. As soon as the victim lets his guard down, the stranger suddenly attacks and ruthlessly stabs him to death. After the murder, the killer quietly vanishes into the night. News of the murder spreads quickly, but it is not an isolated incident. Many people have been reported missing in the area recently. The police are struggling to find leads because the killer is a professional who works quickly and leaves no evidence behind. At this stage, the authorities are completely in the dark regarding the killer's identity or motives. Meanwhile, Detective Young Tae-sok is stuck in heavy traffic while heading to a crime scene. During the delay, he spots a group of gangsters and decides to head toward their gambling den. The thugs at the entrance attempt to block his path, refusing to let a police officer inside their establishment. They even try to bribe him with cash to get him to leave, but Tae-sok is not interested in the money. He beats the gangsters down and storms into the building. Inside, he arrests a young man for illegally cashing out game tickets. Tae-sok does not realize at the time that he has just interfered with the territory of a powerful mob boss named Jang Dong-soo. Jang is busy training when he receives word that a lone detective is messing with his business. Jang Dong-soo immediately calls the police chief to complain. The mob boss pays the local police a monthly cut of his profits to ensure they look the other way regarding his illegal operations. The police chief then calls Tae-sok and reprimands him for interfering with the gang. Tae-sok lies to his superior, claiming he is already at the murder scene, and hangs up. In reality, Tae-sok only arrested the ticket scalper so he could use the man's bike as a taxi to bypass the traffic jam. Upon arriving at the actual crime scene, he handcuffs the suspect to the bike and walks toward the investigation area. He finds a car soaked in blood where the victim had been stabbed dozens of times. Bloody handprints on the windows indicate the victim's desperate struggle to survive. While examining the car, Tae-sok notices a suspicious paint scratch on the rear bumper and takes a photograph. He reports to his captain that he believes this is the work of a random serial killer. He notes that the stab wounds on the victims match perfectly in length and width, suggesting the same blade was used in multiple attacks. Despite this evidence, the captain refuses to listen and kicks Tae-sok off the case for raiding the gangsters' turf earlier that day. Later that night, Jang Dong-soo finishes his business and sends his men ahead. He decides to drive home alone, unaware that he is being watched. While he is on the road, his car is rear-ended by a mysterious driver. Jang steps out to check the damage, and the stranger apologizes, claiming the road was too slippery to brake in time. Jang is a wealthy man and sees that the damage is minor, so he tells the stranger to just go away. However, as Jang turns to get back into his car, the stranger lunges at him with a knife. Jang manages to block the second strike and throws the attacker backward. The killer has the advantage of a weapon, but he has targeted a heavyweight mob boss who is capable of defending himself. A brutal struggle ensues between the two men. Jang manages to wrestle the knife away and stabs the attacker in the chest. Realizing he is outmatched by the gangster's strength, the killer jumps back into his car. He runs Jang over to facilitate his escape and speeds away from the scene. Jang faints in the middle of the road due to excessive blood loss but is eventually found by a passerby. He is rushed to the emergency room for life-saving surgery. When his gang hears the news, they assume the attack was a hit ordered by a rival mob. Enraged, they launch a retaliatory strike on their enemies, catching them completely off guard. While Jang is in the hospital, the mysterious killer hides in the woods. He uses a stapler to close the wound in his chest that Jang inflicted. Because he failed to kill the mob boss, the killer immediately begins hunting for another victim to continue his spree. He eventually kills a guard at a dog impound to satisfy his urge. Jang Dong-soo survives the critical surgery and eventually wakes up in his hospital bed. His lead subordinate reports on the retaliation attack against the rival gang, but Jang stops him. Based on the attacker's calculated moves and lack of a clear motive, Jang realizes this was not the work of a rival street thug. He had managed to see the license plate of the vehicle before losing consciousness and orders his crew to find the man at all costs. Detective Tae-sok rushes to the hospital as soon as he hears the mob boss was attacked. He attempts to squeeze Jang for information, believing the incident is linked to his serial killer theory. Jang remains silent and refuses to cooperate with the police, viewing them as useless. He arrogantly tells the detective that he will find and catch the attacker long before the authorities do. Empty-handed, Tae-sok sneaks into the hospital parking lot to examine Jang's damaged vehicle. He finds a paint scratch on the rear bumper that is identical to the marks left on the previous murder victim's car. This discovery confirms his suspicion that the same serial killer who targeted random civilians has now targeted a major crime lord. The news of the attack causes Jang's reputation on the streets to decline rapidly. His rival, a mob boss named Songdo, visits the hospital specifically to mock him. Songdo laughs at the idea of a powerful boss being hospitalized by a random nobody and demands compensation for the damage done to his own territory during the earlier retaliatory raid. Before leaving, Songdo insults Jang further, telling him he should be too ashamed to show his face in public. Tae-sok returns to the station and pleads with the police chief to let him officially work the serial killer case. He presents his theory and the physical evidence from the cars, but the chief remains unconvinced and kicks him out of the office. Despite the lack of official support, Tae-sok continues to investigate the lead on his own time. That same night, the serial killer continues his spree by ambushing a truck driver. He hijacks the vehicle but discovers a passenger sleeping in the back. The killer murders the passenger and continues his journey in the stolen truck. He eventually abandons his original car at a rest stop and switches to the larger vehicle to avoid detection. Jang Dong-soo hires a professional sketch artist to draw the killer's face based on his memory of the struggle. He distributes this image to his entire crew, turning his criminal organization into a massive search party. Meanwhile, Tae-sok raids Jang's gambling dens again to gain leverage over the boss. He confronts Jang with evidence of his illegal operations to force him into a conversation. Tae-sok explains to Jang that the man who attacked him is a unique kind of psychopath. He warns that this killer does not just target the weak or women, but will hunt anyone, including a crime lord. He argues that if they do not stop him immediately, more innocent people will die. The attack has already caused major financial damage to Jang's empire, with investors freezing funds and clients canceling contracts. Jang's men successfully locate the killer's abandoned car at a rest stop. While the driver is gone, they find a knife nearby that Jang recognizes as the weapon used during his assault. Realizing that his gangsters lack the forensic skills needed to track a professional killer, Jang decides to call Tae-sok for a meeting. Jang proposes a joint operation where he provides the funding and manpower while Tae-sok handles the technical investigation. However, there is a specific condition: whoever catches the killer first gets to keep him. If the police catch him, he goes to prison. If the gangsters catch him, Jang will inflict a much more violent punishment. Tae-sok agrees to the terms and takes the sketch and evidence back to his station. To keep the operation quiet, Tae-sok assembles a small skeleton crew of 2 trusted partners. At the same time, Jang decides to use the situation to eliminate his business rival. He orders his right-hand man, Oh-sung, to kill Songdo using the serial killer's discarded knife. By leaving the weapon at the scene, the murder of a high-profile mob boss is blamed on the serial killer. The police chief becomes furious because the death of Songdo means his monthly bribe money has stopped. He orders the entire department to solve the case at any cost. Forensic tests confirm that the DNA on the knife matches the serial killer, but Tae-sok realizes it is a setup. He knows Jang was the one who found that specific knife and storms over to confront him. Tae-sok attempts to beat a confession out of Jang, but the mob boss easily overpowers the detective during the confrontation. Jang calmly admits that he orchestrated the elimination of Songdo to serve a larger purpose. His master plan is to turn the murder into a massive media sensation to force the police and the press to hunt the killer down, effectively flushing him out. Tae-sok is frustrated by this move because he wanted a quiet investigation to prevent major crime units from taking over the case. As Jang predicted, the death of Songdo becomes the top trending topic in the city. This news reaches the real serial killer, who is livid to find that someone is copycatting his style while he has been unable to work due to losing his knife. During Songdo's funeral, the serial killer actually makes an appearance to set the record straight. He slips a note to Songdo's right-hand man, clarifying that he was not the one who murdered the boss. This message causes the right-hand man to realize that Jang Dong-soo was the one responsible for the hit. The killer then visits a store to purchase a brand new knife so he can resume his activities. The next day, Jang and Tae-sok meet to inspect the killer's abandoned car for further clues. Suddenly, they are ambushed by Songdo's remaining crew members, who have arrived seeking revenge for their fallen leader. A brutal brawl breaks out between the gangsters and the unlikely duo of the cop and the mob boss. During the chaos, Jang takes a heavy blow to the head but remains alert enough to continue fighting. Tae-sok is pinned down and nearly stabbed, but in the struggle, he accidentally drives the attacker's own knife into his chest, killing him. Once the fight ends, Tae-sok is visibly shaken by the fact that he has taken a life. Jang tells the detective to relax and promises that his organization will handle the cleanup of the bodies. Shortly after, the police chief assigns Tae-sok a new case involving the kidnapping of a real estate tycoon. Tae-sok is exhausted but has no choice but to set up a sting operation at the ransom drop-off location. The operation goes poorly when the victim's nervous wife hands the money to a random restaurant owner and accidentally alerts the kidnapper to the police presence. While scanning the area, Tae-sok spots a suspicious man lurking nearby and realizes it is the serial killer. The killer flees through a complex maze of alleyways, and despite a long chase, the police team loses him. Tae-sok interrogates the restaurant owner, who admits a stranger paid her to take the bag. The only physical lead left is a liquor bottle the killer drank from, which is now buried in a massive local landfill. A breakthrough finally occurs when a colleague finds a fingerprint match from the killer's steering wheel. She identifies a suspect and gives Tae-sok an address for a local apartment. Tae-sok rushes to the location and learns from the landlady that the tenant has not been seen in 3 months, though he still pays rent on time. Inside the apartment, Tae-sok finds a creepy environment filled with mossy fish tanks and sodium hydroxide. He finds a landlord's family photo that perfectly matches the sketch provided by Jang Dong-soo earlier in the investigation. This confirms the identity of the man both the police and the gangsters are hunting. Tae-sok immediately calls Jang Dong-soo to update him on the discovery. He plays a voice recording obtained from the kidnapping victim's house during the previous investigation. Upon hearing the voice, the mob boss instantly recognizes it as the man who attacked him on the road. For the first time, the criminal organization and the police force sit in the same room to investigate the case together. Tensions initially rise between the two groups, leading to a brief physical altercation, but they quickly settle down to focus on their shared goal. They mobilize a massive search effort to find the man in the photo at all costs. The team split into groups of 5 to move covertly throughout the city, establishing a signal to converge if anyone spots the target. They scour every housing unit, motel, market, and public space. Despite searching the entire city for several days, there is still no trace of the killer. One rainy day, while Jang Dong-soo is waiting for his men to pick him up at a bus stop, he notices a high school student waiting nearby. Seeing her getting soaked in the rain, Jang kindly gives the girl his umbrella. Shortly after, the student steps onto the bus, where the serial killer is sitting right inside. A tragedy inevitably occurs, and news reaches Jang Dong-soo that the student was attacked on her way home. When the boss hears that his umbrella was found at the crime scene, he is devastated to realize the girl he helped was the victim. This personal connection fuels his rage, and he immediately orders his men to search everything near bus route 32. At this time, the boss and Tae-sok are staking out a deserted road when a white car drives in slowly. The driver is the target looking for his next prey, but he quickly realizes he has been discovered and slams on the gas to escape. The boss and Tae-sok immediately give chase in their respective vehicles. In this pursuit, they are no longer partners but rivals fighting over a single prize. As previously agreed, whoever catches the killer first gets to keep him. In a desperate attempt to cut off the target, Tae-sok fails to watch the road and crashes his car into a roadside food stall. This leaves only Jang Dong-soo in the pursuit, refusing to let the killer escape. Unexpectedly, at a major intersection, all 3 cars involved in the chase crash into each other. The suspect quickly abandons his vehicle and flees into the dark alleyways on foot. Jang's right-hand man, Oh-sung, is the first to follow the trail into a dark path, but the target manages to take him out. Jang Dong-soo continues the search and enters a nearby karaoke bar. After searching several rooms, he notices 2 girls looking terrified near a restroom. Knowing the target is hiding inside, Jang kicks the door open and pins the man down. Jang unleashes a series of powerful strikes that break the door and leave the suspect unable to resist. The prize officially belongs to the mob boss, and he calls Tae-sok to announce that he has captured the killer. This news infuriates the detective, who quickly mobilizes his team to find Jang before he can execute the man. Even while being held captive, the serial killer remains unstable and smiles brightly at his captor. Jang Dong-soo transports the serial killer, whose name is later revealed to be Kang Kyung-ho, to a secluded location to deliver his own form of justice. Just as the boss prepares to execute the man, Detective Tae-sok speeds into the area and rams his vehicle straight into Jang, knocking the mob boss unconscious on the spot. Tae-sok then quickly takes the suspect into custody and transports him to the police station. The next day, news breaks across the country that the police have successfully apprehended the serial criminal. Media outlets and the families of the victims gather in large numbers in front of the station. Inside, Kyung-ho shows no remorse or fear, calmly eating his breakfast while watching news reports about his own crimes. However, a subsequent news report reveals that the police have also arrested Jang Dong-soo's entire crew for operating illegal gambling machines, making the mob boss a wanted man. The legal trial begins, but the prosecution struggles to build a solid case because there is no direct physical evidence linking Kyung-ho to the various murders. The victims' families are devastated as it appears justice may not be served. The defendant maintains a smug attitude, knowing that even the recovered murder weapon is useless without proof of ownership. The only way to secure a conviction is to find a survivor of an attack who can stand as a witness. That witness is Jang Dong-soo. To understand why a wanted crime lord would appear at a public trial, the story moves back to the previous night. Tae-sok had tracked down Jang, who was furious that his prize had been stolen by the police. Jang strikes the detective repeatedly, but Tae-sok reveals he has a recording where Jang admitted to eliminating his rival, Sung-do. Tae-sok threatens that if the recording leaks, they will both be ruined, Jang for the murder and Tae-sok for colluding with the underworld. The detective begs Jang to turn himself in and testify, or else the serial killer will walk free. This leads to the moment Jang Dong-soo enters the courtroom to provide his testimony. To prove his case, Jang removes his shirt to show the scars from the night he was attacked. He describes the event in detail and forces Kyung-ho to remove his shirt as well, revealing the scar on his left chest where Jang had stabbed him during their struggle. Jang also produces the note that the killer had previously sent to Song-do's henchmen. While this evidence helps ensure the killer's conviction, it also results in Jang receiving a life sentence after he eventually confesses to eliminating Song-do. The gamble is successful, and Kyung-ho is officially sentenced to death. Following the trial, Tae-sok's team receives a major promotion for solving the high-profile case. Jang Dong-soo has lost his empire, his crew has been arrested, and his right-hand man is dead, but getting locked up was part of his ultimate plan. He had requested that Tae-sok transfer him to the same prison as Kyung-ho in exchange for his testimony. In the final scene, Kyung-ho is shown taking a shower in the prison. Jang Dong-soo approaches him, turns off the water tap, and smiles while holding a rope in his hands. He intends to personally act as the executioner before the state can carry out its legal sentence.